So my name is Stéphane Carcillo. I am a senior economist at the OECD, which is an international organization based in Paris. Today we presented a report on investing in youth in Australia. This report actually focused on the most at-risk young people, those at risk of disengaging from school or from the labor market. And we look at the situation of these youth compared with other youth in other countries, what's specific in Australia. And we also look at the policies to help these youth get the skills they need to make a smooth transition from school to work. In Australia, you still have 100,000 more young people who are unemployed or inactive but not at school than in 2008, and that's a challenge. Most of these young people don't have the skills that they need to succeed in the labor market, and some of these young people are actually also young mothers who have no option for childcare or pre-primary school. You also have a number of young people who have very serious disadvantages, such as young people with disability who have mental health problems, and also young people from indigenous communities. Now you're having more young people who are actually inactive and unemployed than in 2008, whereas you have actually a general decline in unemployment for the overall population. Actually, the jobs that have been destroyed during the past recession in 2008 are not the jobs that are being recreated now with the new technologies. There's a lot of jobs out there that are in the service industry that are not in manufacturing anymore, and many of these jobs are actually qualified jobs. They're not they're first entry jobs, but they can be nursing, they can be child caring, and they require there's a strong demand for these jobs, and these jobs require qualifications. So you need to train these young people to get these jobs.
I've seen so much value in young people when you tap into them.
Well, it's actually a question that stigma that we have of young people being lazy, and so that's when I sold out of the company, and I gave a year and a half working with a psychologist and did some research on the young generation, studied the young generation, and I discovered that through my research, and I've been at boot camp now for the last year and a half, that it's they're just technology has completely rewired them. And what I mean by that is that there's three forces that has changed the young generation.
Social media has made them team players. The Xbox has created a challenge in them, and
then Facebook is that constant recognition, and that's like, and so.
I've brought those three forces together, and I've created a program that taps into that, into what gets them and what excites them. My partnership now with New South Wales Business Chamber is all about leading by example, and we're going to build a company that's going to tap into this young generation, and our whole idea is to change the perception of young people and get employers to take them seriously, because they are going to be the best workforce to ever hit this world. That I can guarantee.
Well, employers are just as concerned about the whole issue about youth disengagement as anybody else in the community. In fact, in all of our towns and cities across Australia, there are chambers of commerce who speak on behalf of employers, and they're members of the community. They care about youth unemployment. They care about the next generation. They want to get highly skilled and engaged people to work for them, and so it's a big issue for the employer community.
It's the transition from school and unemployment to becoming fully productive, capable, resilient workers. That's the big gap we've got to work on.
What we have to do is to create transition programs where you take people who, for whatever reason, have become disengaged, and find a pathway back for them, because simply taking somebody who's become disengaged and dropping them into a job vacancy has proven not to work. They might last a week, they might last a few weeks, but in the end, if they're not ready and prepared to go into that environment and then supported through the early stages of that environment, it inevitably fails. We have a small population, we're a really wealthy nation, we've had 25 years of uninterrupted economic growth. We should not tolerate a situation where a young person can become disengaged from our society. It should just not be an option in this country. We should say that in Australia, if you're 16 to 24 years of age, we are going to have a support program for you, end of story.
But what we learned today is that this is a problem that affects many nations right across the world, and that there are some things that we can learn from what other countries are doing. What I heard is that we need a commitment to training, a minimum of 12 months in some instances, to make sure young people can make that transition from either no education or a lack of education and training into longer term employment.
Young people are capable, young people have talents, and that given the right sort of investments, which we do through our programmes, namely Transition to Work and the Education First Youth Voice, is really put front and centre that young people have capabilities, are talented, and when given the right set of investments can go on to great employment and education outcomes. And it's the intent and the belief that young people can transition into independent livelihoods and not to welfare eyes or to further silo young people into a welfare space. The Brotherhood also invests in mentoring, and what we're doing there is actually building up young people's social capital. And that's as important as the skill development that we do. That actually we need to think about collaboration in a more innovative way. And innovative is a word that's used, I think, too much. It's actually just good sense to work with health and well-being experts, to work with educationalists, to work with the experts in each of these spaces, and business, to work towards youth employment.
But the unemployment problems of the old seem to attract a lot more public attention and sympathy than the similar problems of the young. And what isn't widely reported and agonised over is the problem of young people who make up about 40% of all the people who are unemployed. So unemployment is concentrated among the young. The sad truth is that youth unemployment is concentrated among the less educated and the less skilled. I think it's all part of the same phenomenon of saying, how will we cope with the fact that the demand for our services, our product isn't all that strong? I know we won't take in many new people this year. In the modern technologically driven workforce, there are many fewer jobs for people who quit school early and for those who don't acquire post-school trade or tertiary qualifications. What unskilled jobs remain tend to be casual and occupied by university students or young mothers who are looking for part-time casual jobs. The dole's been allowed to fall way below the age pension, so it's now less than $280 a week for a single adult. The youth allowance is even lower. So that is my explanation for why youth unemployment has performed worse in terms of changes in levels than the overall rate of unemployment. Because we've been through a period since the GFC of relatively weak growth, including weak growth in employment, and employers have got round that, not by sacking lots of people, but just by not taking on many people, particularly many young people. The system is very heavily weighted against young people and in favour of old farts like me. So thank you.